Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, actually, we have 2 episodes today, back to back. And if you've tuned in, I just want to thank you so much for listening. I want to thank you for all your support. Today is a very, very special day. I have been badgering this guy since I met him, that I wanted to have him on the show because he inspires me to no end. Today, I told him earlier that he's constantly one-upping me in my life. Like I hang out with him and I'll show him something and he'll be like, oh, wow, I've got 10 of those. And they're, specifically made just for me. And, but this man, we became fast friends, and it's very seldom that you meet somebody through another friend and then you become closer, almost closer than you were with the friend who introduced you in the first place. And we got a chance to be able to talk. You guys can see him. He looks like my brother. It's funny because my wife, when we hang out together, and his wife, the 4 of us hang out, like, I don't even know if we talk to our wives during that time. It's just him and I, and we are going at it, back and forth. And there's very few times that you just become such fast friends with people. You become so comfortable, and you're able to, connect on sense of humor, connect on a professional level. You're able to connect on so many different levels. And it was incredible, because I swear to you, when we got a chance to be able to go out to dinner the first time, I don't believe we talked to anyone else at the table. There was probably 8, 9 people at the table, and we laughed for the whole night. My stomach hurt. It was crazy. And most of the time when you connect with people like this, if you ever do, and I hope that some of you out there get the opportunity to have a friend like this, but if you do, a lot of times maybe you connect on one aspect. But what was so cool for me in my life is I was able to connect with him on so many different aspects, because this is a true master of his craft, but he doesn't identify his whole life with what he does. He identifies it with who he is. And you're going to see that as we go through. I introduce him to my friends and I try and explain him, but he always just stays so humble. And when people ask him what he does, he says, I make teeth. And then he goes on to asking you questions about you, and we talk about things and all. But this is the guy. I could tell you this. Almost any person in the country music industry, and then on into the hip hop industry, if you've seen them smile, you've seen his work. He is the most humble. He just says he makes teeth. But Mr. Mark Willis is the authority, and we'll get into talking about that, but he's the absolute master of his craft. So I want to thank you for being on the show today, Mark. I appreciate you, my man.
Oh my gosh, Kelly, thank you so much. And let me say, the feelings that you've expressed, I feel exactly the same way. We became instant friends, and you've constantly been an inspiration to me. Every time we talk, it lifts my spirits. And I tell my friends because I bring your name up a lot, and they're like, Kelly, who's Kelly? I'm like, my friend, the inspirational one. I'm like, he's the happiest, most inspirational guy I know.
Well, you guys are going to see, I mean, Mark, for me, that's the thing. Like, I see you, you're smiling. You're even telling me bad news and you're smiling. I want the people to understand, and most of the time I don't do this. On the podcast, I very seldom talk about what people do. I want to talk about who they are. I want them to understand the gravity of what it is that you do, because you are like, I make teeth, but that's not, I want them to understand the gravity. So, and I want them to understand how much of a craft and an art this is of what you do. I give you a hard time because, if I see you and you got off work at like 2 o'clock, I'm like, what, you only make 1/2 a mouth today? Like, you need to really get to work. Talk to us about this industry that most people don't understand, or most people don't even realize, but you're the man behind so many people all over the world having the smiles that they do.
Yeah. So it is an industry that's somewhat under the radar, unless you have a friend or a family, or unless you've been through the process of, having your mouth restored or your smile fixed. You don't really know that we're there. But what we do is we collaborate with dentists all over the world and help patients achieve the smile of their dreams. It's we hand make everything that we do. So we're using brushes and small tools and instruments and colors and translucencies to build these little teeth. So it's like we're sculpting little tiny sculptures. And the crazy thing about it is you can get kind of caught up in the mundane part of that, of actually creating something like that. But then I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of doctors and patients directly. And when you see how life changing that is for some people, for most people, it's amazing. It's the reason that I go to work every morning, because I've seen thousands of patients that once they have their new smile or their mouth isn't hurting anymore, they break down. And I've seen people who have told me that this is the first time they've felt like they've ever been able to smile before in their life. They've been constantly embarrassed. They don't want to show their teeth. They're always hiding who they really are because they don't feel like they can express themselves in that way. And now they finally can. And so it's very gratifying to be able to be a part of that.
So Mark, help me, because when I'm talking with a lot of my friends and I'm like, my buddy, and I'm like, and I brag about you all the time. And I tell him, I'm like, my buddy, he's the man. He's like the Michael Jordan in his industry. He's the guy. Now you're going to be like, no, I'm not, Kelly. Yes, you are. You wouldn't have a carved wooden chair one-upping me with my chair if you weren't that guy. Also, you wouldn't have, those are real bricks, everyone. Those are real bricks. This is not a facade behind. I felt the bricks. I checked them when I went over to his house because I wanted to see if this guy was faking the brick. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have that person with the linoleum on their wall, this is not linoleum. This is real brick, and it's probably from like King Henry VIII, and he took it from his castle. So when I brag about you to my friends, they're like, oh, he's a dentist. Can you help us to understand the difference in what it is that you do and the dentistry side of it?
Yeah. So, patient goes to the dentist. In the most simplest form of what we do is veneers. We fix someone's smile, and there's a lot more complex procedures, but that's, day in and day out, that's mostly what we do. That's what we're known for. Patient goes to the dentist. They don't like their teeth. They don't like their smile. And the dentist will do a consult with them. And many times he'll call us and we'll co-diagnose the patient and decide exactly what needs to be done, what materials to use, what's the best approach to use. And then the dentist will either prepare the teeth. In some cases, they have to grind down parts of their teeth to make room for the porcelain, to make room for the veneers. And then the dentist will take a series of photographs and impressions of their teeth. They send all of that information to us, and then that's where we take over. We will take the impressions of their mouth and pour that up out of plaster, and we mount that on like a chewing simulator so we can kind of duplicate what's going on in their mouth. And then we fabricate the veneers. There's a lot of different materials and a lot of different processes for how to do that. I'm not going to bore you with all the technical details of it.
Mark, it's not boring to us. It may be like the things that are mundane to you, but it was amazing because when we were sitting in Nashville, right? When we were there and we got to experience the Titans whooping up on the Chiefs. So all you Chiefs fans out there, just want to know that was our Super Bowl. We Costanza'd it and we were out after that. You may talk about the playoffs, the Super Bowl, but we're talking about Chiefs. You got smashed, and it's in history forever. But we were, Mark, you and I were sitting on the couch and we were talking about it, and you mentioned to me about like the whites of someone's eyes. And and I was like, what the hell does whites of the eyes have to do with my teeth, bro? Like, and you started to break down these kind of things. And I mean, seriously, it blew my mind. Help us here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that go into play with how to design someone's smile. There are artistic and like symmetrical principles that we try to follow, but everyone is different. Everyone's unique, and so we have to custom make every tooth specifically for that person and what they're looking for. Now, there are companies out there and doctors, unfortunately, that just kind of slap stuff on, and everyone knows somebody that has new teeth or veneers that look absolutely terrible. And it's horrible. It's a travesty. In the dental industry, there is a lot of that. But there's also a large segment of the population that has seen that and doesn't want that. They want something that looks natural. So when you see someone for the first time, you don't say, "Oh, wow, look at your teeth." You just notice that they have a nice smile. You just notice that they have a beautiful smile, and it matches with their facial features. It's a color that looks good, like bleached teeth. Most of the patients that we deal with want undetectable dentistry. They don't want their dentistry to, enter the room before they do. So we have to work really closely with the doctor and with the patient to understand what it is they want. And then it's our job as lab technicians and ceramists to create that. And we do that with porcelain.
Well, I love it. And the reason why I'm laughing is not because, I'm laughing at Mark, but I'm laughing at the picture in my head of the dude walking in with the chiclets. Everyone out there listening, that guy. Like, that guy or that woman that you're like, whoa, like, it just got done. And you don't want to say anything, but you're trying to compliment them on anything else except them big old wooden, wooden George Washington teeth that they got.
Yeah.
So I love this because when you were talking about it, I mean, a lot of times people think, okay, I'm going to get my teeth done. There's this, there's this system that everyone gets the same teeth, but what you're talking about is handcrafting. So am I correct on this, Mark? This isn't the masses all the time. I wish that it was. We wish that it was. But there's a lot of specific guests. Can you tell, again, I like for people to understand the gravity of what it is that you do, right? Mm-hmm. And you can even whisper some names and then I'll say them afterwards because I can say it and you won't because you're the most humble guy that I know. But can you kind of give us some examples of some of the people that you're working with and the levels of which this is?
Well, we work with dentists all over the world. Most of our clients are here in the States. But like anything, there's a really wide range from, whether you're talking automobiles, there's real cheap mass-produced automobiles, which serve a great function in our society, and then there are people that are more discerning, that have the funds to be able to afford the Ferrari and the Bentley and the Rolls Royce. And there's a big difference,
And for those of you out there listening, Mark is a G5. So when he was saying Bentley and things like that, he's a G5. He is very humble. But continue on, Mr. G5. Am I lying though, Mark? Am I lying? Are you the guy that's on the commercial saying that I'll get you your smile for $99?
Oh, of course not.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Continue on.
No. So I was really fortunate early on in my career to team up with some doctors that became mentors to me. And through those relationships, we've built a team that services some really high-end clientele. One of my biggest clients is in Nashville, Tennessee, and is the go-to guy for the music industry. And I can't really HIPAA prevents me from saying any names, but if
every person in the music industry, in the country music industry that you can think of, I could tell you that Mark did it. And so
we've done a lot.
And I wouldn't say every single person, but I would say the large percentage of it. And even when I give you a hard time this way, and I press you all the time, Mark, and I'm like, we're talking about it and stuff, but I love it because it's not who you are. It's not, That's the reason why I ask, because if it was a place where Mark led the room with like, I work with so-and-so and I work with so-and-so, it's not. So let's shift gears because you guys understand the gravity, and he's so humble, and he is the G5 of this industry. He is the guy. He's the guy. If you want the greatest smile that you could ever have, this is the guy. Seriously, it really is. And you patented Durathin. You came up with this concept, right? And it really,
so this
really changed the game.
this dentist in Nashville and I kind of developed it together. You know, there's so I was at a conference. Um, oh my gosh, this was probably almost 20 years ago. Yeah, probably 18 or 19 years ago. I was at a conference, and this dentist that I had been working with in Tennessee calls me up one day and he says, "Hey, I've got this patient. She's a musician. She's dating this other musician that's like, you know, top of the charts guy. She doesn't like her smile. But one of the problems with a lot of these people that are in that position, they don't want to look like they've had work done. They don't want to, they don't want their fans to say, "Whoa, what did you do to your teeth? These are terrible." And people talk like that constantly when it's someone that's in the spotlight. And so they're like really hesitant to do anything because you go into a situation like that, you don't really know what it's going to look like. You don't want to take a chance like that on screwing something like that up. And so he said, this patient is, dental phobic. She's afraid to get her teeth drilled on. Is there a way that we can do some veneers without grinding on her teeth at all and without having to touch her teeth? So if she doesn't like it or there's a problem, we can just take them off and she can go back the way she was. Now, at this time, there was a company that was doing this type of dentistry, and it's a massive company. But the problem with that company is those are the veneers that everyone can see right when someone walks in the room, and they say, "Oh, wow, those are bad veneers." You know what I mean? They're more affordable, but they were the only, they were the only game in town for a long, long time, and they were marketing like crazy. So everybody's heard of this company, I'm sure, or seen their commercials at some point. But the final product would not pass the scrutiny of a trained eye. You could tell that they were not real teeth. And so I had never done this before. And so, like I do with everything, I just said, "Oh yeah, sure, we can do that." Having no idea how I was going to do it. And, I could tell you stories for hours about how I've gotten myself into trouble that way because that's always my answer. Yeah, we can do that. We'll figure it out. And so he sent me the case. I went home, worked on it for a while, kind of figured out the best way to do it, sent it back to him. And about a week later, he calls me up and he says, "Oh my gosh, you are going to die when you see this. This is unbelievable." He sent me pictures, and it was 100% undetectable dentistry. And we hadn't done anything to her. It was really cool. Beautiful smile, blended perfectly with her natural teeth. And that was the beginning of our journey. And then it was just one case after the next, that we were doing, and we were just knocking them out of the park. Well, it was kind of funny because the dental community as a whole had only seen this type of dentistry done by this one company at a poor or mediocre level. And so that particular approach to cosmetic dentistry, no prep dentistry, was kind of frowned upon by the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry and a lot of these other organizations. And my partner in this was a very, very well-respected dentist in dentistry. And you would not believe the backlash that we got. He got it a lot more than I did, but he was getting phone calls from doctors saying, "This is criminal what you're doing. You can't do it this way. They're not going to be good." And these people hadn't even seen our work. So on the other hand, we were getting groups of doctors that were like, "You got to teach us how to do this. This is amazing dentistry. You got to show us how to do it." So he and I start training dentists. We start holding these courses in Tennessee at his office, and we start training all these dentists on our system and how we do it, our philosophy of dentistry, and how it's important to be as conservative as we can. And dentistry had for years had kind of gone the opposite direction. They were very aggressive with the preparation of teeth, which in many cases didn't need to be done that way. And so we were really, swimming upstream against this. And for years, we received a lot of backlash from a lot of people that didn't believe. So then I think it was probably in early, it was probably 2003 or 2004, where the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry awarded us outstanding scientific contribution to cosmetic and aesthetic dentistry for the work that we had done. So it was really cool. It was kind of a validation that what we were doing is right. And now there's so many dentists that are doing it. We've trained a lot of them. There's other labs that have started doing it. And it's really cool to feel like you've made a positive impact on an industry and ultimately where you're able to change people's lives for the better with something that simple. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but if you're a person with a bad smile or bad teeth and you're embarrassed about it, that kind of stuff holds you back. It can, your relationships can suffer. The way other people view you is different. And when you finally have that smile and you're confident, it can change your whole life. It's really cool.
Let's talk about confidence for a second, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked about this, and we got into it when we were at dinner the last time up in Park City at Sundance. And we were talking about it. And my question to you is, who gave you the permission in your life to swim upstream and to have the type of confidence that you do? Because, I mean, when you said, like, my answer always is, yes, we do that. We'll figure it out. Most people are blocked by even saying yes. And you have this uncanny confidence to be like, well, shit, if I try it and it doesn't work, then I learned a lesson. Where did that come from, man? Where'd you get that from?
I don't know where it came from. I honestly don't. I've never been the kind of person that cares what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing. If it's what I want to do, then that's what I'm going to do. And I've never put any restrictions on myself with things like that. It's funny because I have, whenever I do something like that, people are always like, well, how did you do that? Why did you do it? And I'm like, I just did it. Like, for most things in life, there's not, I think you rarely have somebody that can guide you every step of the way. And okay, this is what you got to do now. And now this is what you've got to do. And I think if you want to be successful at anything, you've got to be willing to take the risk and break some ground, And for me, I went through things in my life where failure just wasn't an option for me, anymore. And if I failed, then I was just going to approach it a different way. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to let that stop me. So if you're not afraid to fail, then why does it matter how you go about it? You're going to get there one way or another. You know what I mean? You just start walking. That's, you know what? It's funny because I used to train dental technicians on what I do. I used to do a lot of training, and I would teach people a certain series of steps, and then they would go back and do it on their own. And I see these people that would, they would take their handpiece with their diamond burr and they're grinding on the teeth and they're just poking at it. They'll be like, and it takes them forever to get anywhere. And they're like, well, I just don't know where to go. I'm like, and so I would tell them, okay, you've got to be able to multitask. You got to be able to do the work and think about it at the same time. What you're doing is you're thinking about it for a while and then trying to do the work and then stopping and thinking about it. I said, just put that burr on the tooth and start moving that thing. Nothing's going to happen if you're not grinding on the tooth. It's not going to shape itself. And it's like that with sculpting. You can sit there with a block of marble and stare at it forever, or knowing that marble's got to come off of that thing in order for it to look like what I want. So why not start chipping away at it? I can think about what I'm supposed to do while I'm chipping away at it. But if I don't actually get to work, nothing's going to happen. And that drives me crazy. I tell my employees this all the time. You just got to start working. You just got to start moving. And I think I think that's in a lot of ways, that's a key to overcoming a lot of problems. It doesn't even necessarily matter sometimes which direction you're moving. You just have to move. You can't just sit there and do nothing, you know? So that's always been my approach to everything. If I get an idea about something that I want to do, there's never a ton of time wasted researching things. I just start doing it. And I make mistakes along the way 100% of the time. I always make mistakes. But then I know not to do it that way anymore. And I pivot. I'm going down a road and run into a problem, and then I just move and go around it or go a different way. And you just start taking little bits and pieces out of it till you get closer to your, and then when you get real close to the goal, that's when you have to slow down and start refining things. Again, with the sculpture, it's like that when we're shaping teeth and when we're carving teeth. There's some gross work that needs to be done before you start worrying about nitpicking little teeny tiny things. The closer you get to the goal, you have to start focusing on finer and finer details. And that's what makes it a masterpiece.
So Mark, it's something else that we talked about when we were in Sundance was, how did you navigate the loneliness of, I mean, you're a true master of your craft. Like when you start talking about it and you tell me, you're like, oh, well, I mean, it's not that interesting to you because I do, these 7 steps. I'm like, yes, it is. All of this stuff is so, it's so, it blows my mind, when we get a chance to be able to talk. But I think that the other part of it is when you are a master of your craft, like what you are, there's very few of you, and sometimes it can be lonely, right? Because you don't have as many people, because we talked about, you were in an environment where not everyone was going the direction that you were going. How were you, like, how did you deal and navigate that loneliness, and how, what do you do to be able to, make those things better?
That's hard. That's something that I've always struggled with. And you've said some things to me in the past that have helped me look at that from a different angle. And so I'm kind of redefining how I deal with that kind of stuff right now in my life. But it is hard because you don't have, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's striving to be the best, it is lonely at the top sometimes. And I'm not saying that I'm at the top. I'm just saying that pursuit is lonely because not very many people are going to go there with you. I think for me, I've had a few people around me, employees that are close friends that have always had my back, that have always been there. And they may not be on the exact same path that I'm on, but they're willing to travel with me at times. They're willing to help me get through some of those hard times. And I have people that I can talk to, and I think you have to. I don't think anybody can do it 100% alone. Maybe, but I don't know anybody that's ever been able to do that. You have to rely on other people. And I think you have to select those people carefully, because as much as those people can help you, if you're not surrounded by the right people, if those people aren't there to help you and really don't have your best interest in mind, they're going to completely destroy your path. It's funny because I look at these mountain climbers. I just watched a documentary on Netflix not too long ago called 14 Peaks. I think it's called 14 Peaks. Anyway, it's a fantastic story. It's about this guy who, I guess there are 14 peaks in the world that are over a certain height. And it's a lifelong dream for a lot of these mountaineers to be able to summit all of these mountains. And the only guy who had done it before, I think it took him over 10 years to do all this. Well, this guy is an Asian guy, and I think he grew up in Nepal, and his goal was to do all 14 peaks in under 8 months. And everyone was like, there's no way. Yeah, it's impossible. You can't do it. Well, he did it. But he never would have been able to do that without the support of his team, without these Sherpas. And it was cool because he is one of the first people to actually give credit to these Sherpas. He says these guys are always climbing Everest and they get all the glory. And everyone kind of overlooks these Sherpas that have done it like 100 times, and they're carrying all their packs, they're carrying all their gear, they're carrying everything for them, and they get none of the credit. So to accomplish something great, regardless of what it is, you have to have a team. You can't do it by yourself.
Let's talk about the friendships in the circles, because I think this has been a huge one. I mean, you've been a huge catalyst for me, because our friendship allows me to talk about things that a lot of times I can't talk about with anyone.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. You don't want to roll into a party and, let's put it on a small scale. You don't want to roll into a party and talk about the business that you own when all the people are unemployed, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm at some level, but there's certain things that I don't get a chance to talk about unless I'm in the company of people who are doing very similar things. How important has this been? And I mean, I think, where you and I met was PLH, which is, I mean, honestly, like I would like to advertise PLH, but you actually can't go. Like, it's sold out and it's a membership thing. And I mean, even if you wanted to go, you couldn't, but it's really cool, right? It's awesome. And you have to be invited, and both of us are invited, so we get to go. But the circles, talk to me about the circles, because these things and maybe give some specific things that maybe you've been in the circles and it's kind of given you some of those wings to be able to fly.
Yeah. Well, it is important, because I never would have realized that anything that I've done is even possible without other people. Like, I didn't imagine my life the way it is on my own. Early in my career, again, like I said, I've had some great mentors. Some have been dentists, some have been family, and some have been friends that, I didn't even I didn't even deserve to be in their circle, to be honest with you. We were at such different ends of the spectrum in our lives. And but for some reason, I saw those people and what they were doing, and I saw the people that were kind of around my circle of friends and what they were doing, and I was like, wow, this is night and day. And I knew that the best way to gain what you want, or to get what you want, is to find someone who has it and follow their footsteps. They've blazed the trail. So if I want what they have, I got to do what they've done. There's no other way to do it. I mean, there are a few people that have kind of blazed their own trails, but they're very rare. And so it was weird, because when I was young, I was in my early 30s, and all of my friends were in their 50s. They were all successful business owners. They were all doing amazing things. They were part of amazing organizations. And I was just kind of like tagging along. I mean, sometimes I'd look around and be like, what in the hell am I doing here? Like, I have nothing in common with these people. But I kept pushing and kept asking questions and learning from these people. And I think that's what you have to do. If you surround yourself with people that are all less successful than you, that are going nowhere in life, that are making poor decisions, and then you're never going to get anywhere but there. I think you have to find people, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend. I mean, an organizations like you were saying, like PLH. I mean, even still, we're in these we're in these parties and we're talking to people, and I find out that so and so, this guy's worth like $500 million, and he's got all these amazing businesses and he does all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, man, who am I? What the hell am I doing in here? But that's what motivates me. Is I'm like, listen, if these people can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of putting yourself in the position to make it happen.
So talk to me too about, how you're able to be in the orbits, in the circles, but I mean, and I've watched you. I watched you before we actually knew each other. I watched you were just connecting to people as opposed to what they did. And I think a lot of times when people get into places like this, they are constantly thinking about what that person could do for them.
Yeah.
And then they get X'd out of that circle really fast. Whereas the people who stick around are not the people looking for anything. How have you been able to keep that North Star when you're literally, you're a giant, but you walk amongst giants also.
Because there's nothing that I want from any of these people. I honestly don't. It's not that I don't have aspirations still in life and things that I want to accomplish, but there's nothing that I want from these people other than to get to know them and to hear their stories and to, tell me. It's fascinating to me. How did you get where you are? And I think when you approach people that way, they can tell, they can sense it. If I've had people come up to me and tell me, "Whoa, man, I want what you have and I want to do what you do." And my thought is, okay, then do it. Like, I'm here to help you, but I'm not going to do it for you. There's nothing I can't do anything for you. Like, you show me that you want to do this and I will be there to help you every step of the way. I'll answer questions, I'll help you. And I think that's how successful people are. But if you approach somebody, they can tell if you're there to get something from them. And I'm just not. I love my life. I just love getting to meet these people and hearing their stories and hanging out with them. It's so much fun. I love it.
Mark, can you talk to all about the connection point? Like, when you go, like, in the event that any of you out there listening or watching get a chance to meet Mark, this is who Mark is. Like, Mark is not presenting anything right now. We're just having a conversation. And if you get a chance to meet him, he's just that, where you're going to talk, you chop it up, whatever it is. What gives someone the permission or the admission to come into your circle? Because when I did, like, you and I connected, we connected quick. Like, it was just fast friends. We were joking right away. We
were
was
able to be the hair.
Yes. I think that's probably what it is. You got a better beard though, man. You got better beard. You got better beard game, man.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But because the way that I thought about it, and I remember talking with Andrea, with your wife, about this, and I was saying, like, we connected really quick. It was just natural. And, we became friends, whatever it was. We were chopping it up. We were there. And then she told me, she was like, well, he doesn't connect with people as he's not as open like that. And I was like, wait a second, you're talking about Mark? I'm like, my Mark? She's married to you. And I was like, my Mark that I've known for like 10 minutes? No, I know everything about him. Talk to us about some of the things that are the barriers for you,
yeah,
talk to that.
That's tough for me, because most people who know me really, really well know that it is hard for me to connect with people. I'm in most cases, I'm pretty standoffish. I know you haven't seen that because that's not because I don't want this to come out wrong, but I feel like I'm pretty good at getting people and what they're all about. Not always, but I've had a lot of experiences in my life where I feel like I have been taken advantage of, um, and those experiences have led me to kind of keep people at arm's length until I really get to know them. So I think in most cases it takes a lot to really get to know me, because I'm a lot of people just say I'm really shy or I'm really quiet, and then other people that really know me well are like, he's not shy at all, you know. um, I don't know. I'm kind of weird. I'm kind of
I
weird that
don't think I don't think that it is that you're weird. What I love about it is that the message that I constantly get from you is I am not what I do. And
yeah.
I constantly get that because I mean, here's this guy who says, I make teeth and but is the Michael Jordan in his industry and is the G5 like I was talking about. But yet you'll be like, yo, dude, you gotta check out my motorcycle. And then you'll be like, let me take you into my lair and show you my guns. Like you're as passionate about your gun. Like I haven't even seen some of the guns you have. Like I showed a picture to my dad of the guns you have. He was like, what the hell does he have those? Like, where are you at?
That's
So,
funny.
but like, is that something intentional? Because it's almost as if you shut off. Like you shut off, I'm Mark that makes teeth. And when we go and ride motorcycles, we go to Leaper's Fork. Shout out to that. We go to Leaper's Fork. You turn into the guy who's looking for the right art piece. You know what I'm saying? And then you spend time never telling anyone what you do. But I remember you asking the lady at the art gallery, and you were interested in her. You're sitting there, you're talking with her, you're looking her in her eyes. She ain't going to help you in your life. She ain't going to, I mean, it isn't going to make any difference, but you do that to every single person. How are you able to do
Um, well, I don't do that. I don't do that to every single person.
that? That would take a long time. You wouldn't be able to make any of them wooden teeth anymore. You know what I mean?
It's, it does not come natural to me. That does not come natural to me. And the only time that I'm good at it is when I make a conscious effort to be good at it. I mean, it's something that I struggle with. I struggle with it all the time. I have suffered with massive anxiety, and the way have chosen to overcome it. So when I first started doing this, I had a couple opportunities to lecture on what I was doing because people were like, "Wow, what you're doing is really good, and we'd love to hear." I'm like, 24, 25 years old. I looked like I was 12 years old, like this skinny, dorky kid. And, they're like, we want you to lecture for this group of, 200 dentists on cosmetic dentistry or on new materials or products. And I just said, yeah, I'll do it. And then, the fear sets in of what the hell did I do? Like, I don't know how to use PowerPoint. I don't know how to use Keynote. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that was always my response. And after that, I was asked to lecture more and teach more. And I just always said yes. And it forced me to do something that I wasn't comfortable doing. And so that's what I have to do when I'm in social situations with other people. Because dental technicians and ceramists are pretty solitary creatures. I mean, we sit in a lab with other technicians. We rarely get to see the patients, the customers, the dentists. We don't have people coming in, and so we don't interact with a lot of people every day. And so a lot of dental technicians are very reserved and kind of focused artistic people. Um, and so that's an easy position for me to be in. That's a comfortable position for me because I don't have to, deal with people. I can just focus on doing my work and getting it done. And it's just me. So then I start, you know, getting out into public, I start teaching at all these different universities, different dental groups and study clubs and all this stuff. And now now the spotlight's on me and people want to talk to me. And I had to figure out how to transition from the mole person into someone that was comfortable talking to other people. And it's still a challenge for me. It's a conscious mental decision that I have to make to put myself in that place.
Mark, how are you able to also, this has been a thing that blows me away, is when I alluded to it earlier as far as the passions, right? So you consistently tell me through your actions and just being your friend that you're not what you do. And you dive into music. Do you have the hat sitting right there that you went to New York? Is it sitting in the office right now? Do you have it?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, show this hat. And I want you to explain this hat. Okay, show it around. Like, let's see it. Okay. This hat is gangster. It's so good. It's so good. But explain the story of the hat, because I believe that for me, with my friendship with you, the stories of the things are more important than the things in your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Talk to that.
So
tell us about the hat first. Don't try and get off on something else, Mark.
Okay.
Tell us about the hat, bro. That's what I said.
First of all,
okay.
I love people, and I find it very interesting, people that are passionate about what they do. I don't care what it is. If you are striving to be the best at what you do and you are passionate about it, I love it. I read books, watch documentaries about that kind of stuff. So I was on Instagram, this was a couple of years ago, and I came across these really cool custom hats. And so I started following this guy. It's an Italian guy, lives in Brooklyn. His name's Paolo. And I just loved his hats. And I was like, I got to have one of these hats. So I was actually in New York for something else. And I called him up and I said, Paolo, you don't know who this is, but I want to meet with you. I want you to make me a hat. So we set up an appointment. We set up a meeting. I went over there and we spent probably 2 hours just, drinking coffee and talking about hats and became really good friends. And he made me this hat and I love it. Yeah.
That hat is gangster. And you see, those of you out there listening, you're watching. Number one, you love the hat if you're watching. Number two, if you're listening, what I hope you're catching is the fact that here is a craftsman that loves craftsmen. He goes after, the story of the things that you have. Every single thing, man, has a story. Like, hey, we're having a party. Like most people are like, hey, I'm having a party. Mark ain't having a party. He's having an event, and he's bringing in his, favorite, musical artist. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's got a story behind him, Jeremiah James, like, to have him in and be able to go and these kind of things. Were you always conscious about the stories behind things?
Yeah, I was.
Where did it come from? Was that from a very early age where you like, this is my Matchbox car and it, I scratched it on the side? Because Mark will do this and he has no idea. I think he does know this in our friendship, but he straight one-ups me. Like, I swear. Like, he was like, oh, wow, we have the same chair. And then he leaned to the side and he wanted to show off the hand-carved George Washington cherry tree that is behind him, right? So he was really doing this to me. Do you do this to all your friends, or do you just make me feel bad about myself, Mark?
It's just you.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't. I honestly don't know where it comes from. I'm fascinated by people that do things at a high level because they're rare, and they're getting even more rare with technology, and the mass population wants things faster. They don't care necessarily about the quality. They just want something that's cheap and that'll, they just want a dowel that'll fill the hole. And I'm fascinated by things that people spent a part of their life doing. So for me, like one of the things is with art, my goal is to fill my entire house with original art pieces. They don't have to be expensive. They don't have, you know what I mean? I have to love the art piece, but to me, an original art piece, whether it's a sculpture or a painting or whatever it is, it's something that someone took a chunk of their life and spent it on that specific thing. And that to me has a lot of value. That's like you're taking part of someone's life and you're putting it in your house, or you're putting it in your yard, or you're admiring it one way or another, but that's a chunk of somebody's life that they've given, and not just a chunk of their life, but a chunk of their mental power and their imagination, their creativity. All of that stuff is, you know, bound to this one piece of art, whatever it is. And that's fascinating to me. And it's fascinating to me what drives people.
Mark, talk to the entrepreneur out there, because this, again, like the message is very consistent. It takes courage. It takes courage to say, I'm going to be a craftsman, and maybe the whole world isn't going to love what I do, but the people who are meant to love what I do are going to love it at the highest, craziest level. And when I see craftsmen like yourself, I see them get rewarded, that their audience has just been waiting for them, because their audience won't show up to something that's fake. But I want you to talk to the entrepreneur out there, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs, or, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are in business that are like, Mark, I'm so scared to take that leap because I need to produce at a high level, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to survive. But you have done it completely opposite of what everyone would tell you to do. They would be like, do it to the masses. And you're like, no, I'll do it to exactly what I'm purposed to do. And then everyone will show up.
Yeah. One of my mentors early on told me that, and it stuck with me. He basically said, listen, it doesn't matter what you do. You do it the very best you can, and always try to be the best at what you do, and people will find you, especially now. I mean, even more so now than in any other time in history. It's so easy to find people now, to find what you're looking for. You know, 20 years ago, it wasn't that easy. Like you had to come across it, or you had to have someone introduce it to you. You can find stuff on your own now. And people that are looking for specific things, if you will put yourself out there, they'll find you. It's just, you know, I think it's easy for people to think, because we're just one person and we have an idea. Maybe it's a crazy idea, or maybe and we have a tendency, I think it's human nature, to kind of downplay what we do. Well, it's not that great. It's, you know, it's okay. And what we don't remember is that there are billions of people in this world, and everyone has access to information that you can put out there on multiple different platforms. And you cannot let that fear of maybe what somebody else is going to think, or that this isn't good enough. You know, maybe it isn't good enough for a certain group of people, but there's so many people out there that it is good enough for, and you can get better as you go, but you can't wait until you're perfect to get it out there. Like, you can't get everything done, your opus completely finished, and then present it and expect everyone to show up. Like people like me and a lot of people want to be a part of the process. They want to be a part of the journey. That's one of the things that makes it exciting for small businesses. You know, it's this restaurant that I was working at. So it's, you know, the restaurant was just started. It's, you know, it's a small restaurant, but I love the restaurant, and it has a lot of potential. And I love seeing it. Like when I go by and see a lot of cars out, it gets me excited. I'm like, oh man, Skylar's killing it. This is awesome. It makes me happy to see him succeed, and I love to be a part of that.
What he was alluding to, I'm going to tell you the whole story, because again, guys, the gravity of who Mark is, And just to, as a person, you hear him talk, we hear him talk about what, I talk about what he does. He talks about who he is. But the gravity of that part of it, this guy who is the best, the greatest in his industry at what he does, him and I were talking, and he was like, I said, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? He said, well, I could go out on this day or this day, but I'm tied up this night and this night. And I was like, oh, and I just wanted to ask, why are you tied up? And he said, well, there's a local restaurant that he was just talking about. We love it. And because of COVID, there's a lot of people who haven't been able to have employees, whatever it is. So I was talking to the owner, and the owner said something about that. And he was like, so Mark said, well, I'll come and cook. Mark has a passion, not only a passion, but something that he went after and went to a culinary institute to be able to go after one of his passions on top of what else he does. And he went and got paid minimum wage 2 nights a week to cook at this restaurant. And they have no idea the gravity of who this guy is that's cooking in their kitchen. But he did it because he loves the craftsman work, and he's willing to put his money where his mouth is. And I just think, it's amazing.
Here's something funny about that. Here's another interesting lesson. So nothing's solid yet, but he has asked me if I'll come in as his partner in the restaurant.
I knew it. But ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to get back to this, Mark. I'm going to interrupt you. But think about this. Mark went in, and when he told me, he was like, I'm going to go and cook. And I was joking. I was like, oh, yeah, are they giving you minimum wage? And he was like, yep. And I was like, dude, you are the most expensive chef in the world. But when you serve people and you go in with no expectation, guys, you're hearing it first here on the podcast, but you're going to be able to eat at this restaurant soon. And it's not just going to be just a one. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, Mark. It doesn't.
That was really cool.
When was that conversation?
So, I eat there probably once a week. So, and I've had to stop working nights at the restaurant because we've been so busy at our lab. And so every time I go in, he's like, when are you coming back in to start cooking, man? And, well, when I get some time. But he has a couple other restaurants that he runs. And he was talking to me one night and just mentioned, he says, I really would, this is starting to pick up. There's a lot of opportunities, and he's kind of beating around the bush, and he says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I would love to open up some more restaurants. And I said, well, listen, I said, if you ever need an investor, I said, talk to me. I said, I'm not Bill Gates or anything. I'm not going to be able to come in there and build you a new restaurant. But I said, I love you. I love your concept. I said, I'd love to be a part of it. And then the next time I went in, he said, hey, I got to talk to you. He said, I have a meeting today. He was really excited. I got a meeting with some potential investors. They want to come in. And I was like, that is fantastic. I'm so excited for you. And then he called me, I think it was about a month and a half ago, and said, hey, I'd like to set up a meeting. I'd like to come into the restaurant. Let's have lunch. I want to talk to you. I want to pick your brain about some things. I want to talk to you about some opportunities. And so we sat down, and he said, listen, this is what I want to do. He's like, I want to have you as a partner. And I said, listen, let's get an NDA figured out. Let's get all the financials figured out. Let's sit down and look at it. But I said, you know what? I would love to. I'd love to be your partner in this restaurant. I think we could do some really cool stuff, and I'm excited about it. So we're meeting probably in like 2 or 3 weeks to go over some financials and some stuff like that. But I'm excited.
Well, yeah, and you could see it. You could see it in you if you're watching right now. You could see it in his face. If you're listening, you can hear it in his voice. And this is, guys, what I love about it is this is the way that business happens. This is the way that opportunities happen. when you're out there hustling, grinding, trying to find it, I mean, guys, it's going to run away from you. But when you sit into what your purpose is, you master your craft, like what this guy is. And it's amazing. That's why, seriously, I love to hang out with you. I don't like to hang out with you too much because you show me your chair and you're like, oh, look at my chair, look at my bricks in the back. You only got a painted wall, stuff like that. And, I mean, I could tell you that my lighting might be a little bit better than yours. That would be the thing.
Oh, I guarantee it is.
I'm just joking with you, man. But let's talk about that too, because this is the way that things seem to happen, in your life, in business and things like that. And when people are listening though, was the road smooth for Mark in business?
Oh my gosh, no. No, it's been terrible. There's aspects that have been easy. There's aspects that have come pretty natural to me, but no, it's been tough. So when I first got into this industry, I got into it through my older brother. My older brother owned a dental lab that his father-in-law had owned. And I wanted to get into the business because the road that I was going down, it wasn't working out. I was married, we had a new baby on the way, I was in school. I'm like, this is not working. I've got to figure something else out. And I knew that my brother made pretty decent money. He had a good business. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I'd love to learn the business. Would you be willing to give me a job? And he said, I'll give you a job if you go to the training school. There's a training school that was pretty close by. It was like a 10-month tech school for training. So I'm like, okay. I go to the school, I take their entrance exam, and I fail portions of the entrance exam. The math parts, I completely failed it. So they were like, well, we won't let you in the program. You have to go to the university, take this math class. After that semester, you can come back and retake the test. And I'm like, I don't have time for this crap. So I go back to my brother and I told him this. I'm like, I can't get in. Like the soonest I'm going to be able to get in is probably in 6 months. And that's not going to work. I need to get started on this. Well, he just happened to have in his lab the training program that the school had. It was a series of VHS tapes and and manuals, and you would pour up the models, and you watch the video till you get to the segment, and then you read the book and you follow along and you do it. And it was the same basic program that the school was using to train technicians. And he said, listen, I don't have time to teach you, but if you want to come in here and watch the videos, and train yourself, I'll be here to answer questions. I'll be here to help you where I can. So that's what I did. I went in there every day and I watched the videotapes hundreds of times and basically taught myself how to do it. And then when I was capable of doing, one of the steps, he would put me to work, and again, paying me minimum. I think it was like $4.25 an hour or something like that I was making. But I would work in that department. And then as I got proficient in another department, he would move me into that department and so on and so forth until I, I wasn't good, but I was, able to do the job. And then there was some new products that were coming out, and my brother wanted me to kind of head up that department. And so he took me over to another technician that was doing some really cool stuff, like really artistic stuff, because the kind of work that we were doing was way more mechanical. It was not at a high level. It was functional, but there was nothing really artistic about it. And I saw this other guy doing some amazing stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea you could do this. Like I had no idea that you could actually, that it could fulfill an artistic, desire that I had. And so I started doing it the way this guy showed me. And that department started to grow. And then we I was taking classes from all these different technicians all over the country, because whenever I would find someone that was doing something really cool, like I'd get the dental magazines and I'd see stuff that was really cool, and I would call the guy up and, hey, I want to learn how to do what you're doing. And then they would hold a class and I'd go out there. Anyway, so one of the classes that I got to be a part of was at the University of Pacific in San Francisco. It was a live patient class. And what that means is doctors from all over the country would bring their patients with them to the dental school. And it was a 2-weekend course. And the course was based around teaching dentists how to do cosmetic dentistry, teaching them how to do bonding, how to, use all the new materials and all this stuff. And I was there as a student. So I went, and it was an amazing experience. So I was like, I want to go back. I want to do it again. So I did it again. And a lot of the instructors that were there were blown away by my work. They were like, oh my gosh, look at this work. And I was a kid, like 23 years old, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, I can't believe it. Will you shut the door? They couldn't believe it. So they had different levels of this course. They had an advanced course, which is the one I went to. And then they had, which a lot of different lab technicians participated in. And then they had a level 1 course, which they had sponsoring labs. I think they had 5 different labs. And those labs would do all of the work for the doctors that came in, which was an amazing marketing opportunity for these labs, because they actually got to get in front of their potential clients and actually showcase their work at the same time. And so I was like, well, why don't we be a sponsoring lab? And at this point, we had no idea what we were doing with cosmetic dentistry. We're totally out of our depths. And there was a lot of labs trying to get in, because it was an incredible opportunity to grow your business. So I called up the director of the program, and I said, hey, he knew who I was because we had just finished a course, so it was kind of fresh in his mind. I said, hey, we want to be a sponsoring lab. We want to be a part of this. And I told him like all these lies about how much cosmetic dentistry we were doing. Like, we're the best. We do it all the time. And he said, okay, we'll give you a shot. We'll have you participate in one of the courses. So we did it. And that was a new day for our business, because after that, we became one of the main sponsoring labs, and we were put in front of so many dentists every month. I mean, we were back and forth from San Francisco several times a month doing these courses. Well, then after about 5 or 6 years, it was probably 5 years, that program dissolved. And the director of the program was going to start a new program where it was going to be kind of like a traveling program to different dental schools all over the country. And he asked me to be the director for the laboratory program. So basically, I was responsible now for all the lab work and training all the new labs that were coming in. And so once again, it was like our business was growing like crazy. Well, back up a few years, I started getting offers from other labs from all over the country, people that wanted me to come work for them. And I was torn because I was not making a lot of money, and these guys were offering me a lot of money to come work for them. I was like, man, I can't turn this down. So I went to my brother and I told him, listen, I think I'm going to have to take one of these jobs because this is like 3 times as much as you're paying me. And he came back to me a couple weeks later and he said, you know what? He said, you've doubled the size of our business. We're on track to triple, quadruple the size of our business. He said, I'm going to give you half the company. So he gave me 49% of the company. And it was great. The company was doing really well. We were growing. And then I got a little too big for my britches. And made some really bad choices, and that ended my relationship with my brother, and I forfeited all of my stock in the company and lost it all. Lost my marriage, lost my job, lost my brother. And it was a really, really rough time. So
How old were you at this time, Mark?
this was about 16 years ago. So I was 30. Let's see, I was 35, 34 years old, and I had to start from scratch with everything. And I had in the agreement with my brother, I couldn't hire any of the employees. All the employees that I had trained, um, couldn't hire them, so I had no support staff. I just had to start from scratch, and that was one of those things where it was like, I don't, failure's not an option. I, I, I'm not gonna give up. I can't give up. Um, I just have to start over, and so that's what I did. I started over. I rented a tiny little space that was like a 500 square foot lab in the basement of a medical office, and I worked day and night. I mean, I'd sleep on the floor for a couple hours, get up, start working again, working 18, 20 hours a day. And after a couple years, I'd saved enough money to build out another space down the hall that was a little bit bigger. I had a few employees at that point, and kept grinding it out just every single day. Um, and after a few years, I had saved up enough money that I bought some land and built an amazing facility. It was the lab of my dreams. Built a couple buildings on it, um, filled the place out, built a full training center. I mean, we weren't even doing any training, but I'm like, I'm building a training center because we're going to have training here. We're going to have dentists come from all over the world, and they're going to come here to train. And I just had the vision of what I wanted, so I just built it, and um, it's been pretty good, you know. It's been pretty good,
I
but
would say
but it
so.
definitely
Pretty
hasn't been.
good. That's where the humble Mark. That's where the humble Mark. He's like, it's been all right, I guess.
No, it's. I think your original question was has it been easy? Um, I don't think anybody who's successful has gotten that's gotten there has had it easy. That word is like it just doesn't exist in an entrepreneur's mind because it's a series of exhausting work and setbacks and disappointments. But if you have it in your mind that you're going to succeed, that stuff just falls away. It doesn't matter. You just keep doing it. Just keep going.
So
So
we talked a little bit, and you answered the question amazingly. Like, and this is the reason. And I know these stories about Mark, but I want every person out there to hear and to understand. When I keep using the word gravity, but I want you to understand that part of it of when you see a Mark and he has the smile on his face and he's, passionate about his motorcycles, or, he's a car guy too, which we connected on that part. And, the toys and the fun and things like that, that stuff didn't just happen. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that he's going to have, probably the most successful restaurant in the area. I swear to you, like it's going to be the place, and it's going to be this like place where people will come from miles and states around to come and just experience it and sit in, because that's what Mark does. But I wanted, like when I asked the question, like I wanted them to understand that it's not just this like, oh, I threw in these 3 ingredients and I cooked them up in a pot and then everything worked out, right?
it would be nice if it were that easy.
Well, how's the talk to me a little bit about music too, because you opened my mind to a lot of music. One of which is one of your favorites. Now it's one of my favorites, Coulter Wall. And like, I mean, if you haven't heard Coulter Wall, It's on a different level. You just got to go and be in see him in concert too, which was probably
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. We saw him at the Ryman like 3 weeks ago.
Why is that?
Unbelievable.
Why is that connection? Like, why is his music so important to you, and why is that?
I think first of all, the first thing you'll notice is that he's got a very unique voice for a young kid. I mean, he's like 24, 25 years old. The young kid. He's, I mean, you hear this guy's voice, and he's got a very unique voice. It's really cool. But his songwriting um, has a depth to it that most musicians, especially country musicians, just don't have. Um, and you can tell it's from experience because this guy's a real cowboy. He's a rancher. You know, he works on a ranch. He's not a, you know, one of these musicians with a cowboy hat. You know, they say those guys are all hat and no cattle. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but talking about people that are just, you know, they just put on a show. And eventually, after a while, you can tell people like that there are people that are all hat and no cattle. Like there's no substance behind what you're saying or what you're selling. And this guy he's the real deal. I mean, his songwriting ability is unbelievable. There's just a lot of depth to what he does. And like all artists, I have so much respect for musicians. I've struggled to play instruments my entire life. I can kind of flink around on a few things, but I have a lot of admiration for musicians. The other one is that we've just come to know. His name's Wesley Dean. Um, that's kind of a cool story. So we were one of our mutual friends in Nashville is an agent, and about I guess it was almost a year ago, showed me his video because he had just signed him, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is freaking amazing. He's an Australian, just moved to the States. And so the next time we were in Tennessee, we went and saw his concert. And I went up and introduced myself and I said, Wesley, I love your music. I said, I want you to come to my house and do a concert for us. And he's like, okay, yeah, whatever. So 6 months later, I set up a concert at my house and invited a bunch of musicians, and he came out, and it was really cool. And since then, we've become real close friends with him and his wife and their kids, and they're just amazing people, amazing people.
Mark,
So
Mark, you're the embodiment. I mean, this is one of the things that, and I talked to you about it when we were in Park City. Um, there was three things. Number one, be kind, like contribute to everybody. Don't be taken from everybody. Just contribute, and everything will work out. Number two, make a bunch of friends, make friends, and through your story, every time that something amazing's happened, it's like, no, I've walked up to him and was like, hey, I'm going to be your friend. And then the next thing that you embody too is that you stay curious.
yeah,
Can you help me with those three? Because I've never found a profession or a certain, an area in life that won't succeed without those three.
yeah,
If you use those three, being kind, making friends, and just staying curious, it seems
yeah.
to be a recipe. Now, it doesn't mean that you just throw them in the pot and you just let them go and then you're going to turn out. But this is something that you live. Can you speak to it a little bit?
Um, I think being kind I think in order for a person to be kind, they have to have been through some shit in their life. I mean, you to really understand what that means, you have to have been through some hard things. You have to have experienced um, acts of kindness from other people and know and remember how that made you feel. You also have to experience the opposite of that. You have to have had times where people have been mean to you, and people have not been there for you, and understand what that feels like. And I think if you're conscious about that, if you can remember those times in your life, when you come across people, even if you don't agree with them, even if you don't like them, there's no reason not to be kind um, to other people. And it's not that I'm perfect at it or I'm good at it all the time, because I can be a jerk. Like like anybody else. You know, we all have bad days, but I think it's important, and I think that's good that that's the first on your list, because it sets the tone for a lot of other things. And you never know first of all, what kind of an impact you're going to have on someone's life. I mean, there have been times in my life where people have been kind to me and it's literally saved my life. You know, I've gotten something from that person, whether they realized it or not, that has saved my life. And I missed my point. I lost my point.
You had a person.
Oh, the other part of that is you're going to need kindness at some point in your life as well. And the very person that you're showing kindness to may be the only one available to show that to you. I mean, our paths, you never know whose path you're going to cross or what's going to happen in life. And so I think it's important to put good things out there for other people. I mean, everyone's going through crap, and most of the time nobody knows what people are going through. And it's easy to be kind to people if you know that they're going through something hard and you see that they're struggling. It's much easier to be kind. It's hard to be kind to someone when they're going through those things and they're not showing it. Or maybe they're a jerk to you and you don't understand why they're being that way. That's when it's hard. It's hard to be kind to people that are like that, because it's so easy. First instinct is to snap back and be like, oh yeah, screw you. But because we don't see that, we don't see what people are going through. So that's kind of how I look at it. That's how I try to remember it. As far as making friends, again, I think it's crucial to your success in everything in life, not just business, because you can't do it by yourself. You have to do it with your friends. And you just never know where those friendships are going to lead. I became friends with the owner of that restaurant, the head chef of that restaurant. I never in my mind did I go there and start working because I wanted to try to figure out how to get into the business. It never even crossed my mind. I liked the guy and I wanted to work there. I wanted something to do and get to meet new people and have new experiences. And it was crazy because, half the time I was there, I'm washing dishes, and I'm, my back is killing me. And I'm like, man, people do this for work like every day. It was eye-opening to me because I hadn't done work like that in a long time. But it was so good for me and gave me a newfound respect for people that are working in these restaurants, man, because they work hard. And it sucks, man. It is not easy to do, and they're not getting paid much. I'm like, man.
I want to preface this with the fact that I'm not laughing at people out there working for a small amount of money, but I am laughing at my buddy Mark, who, seriously, this would be like Michael Jordan in his prime, stopping by 7-Eleven and being like, yo, do you want me to pick up a couple of shifts on my off time? Which Michael Jordan didn't have any off time. Neither does Mark. He doesn't have any off time, but he made it because he wanted to serve at a high level. I mean, it's just, dude, I am so proud to be your friend. I mean, there's a lot of places where I'm not proud at all, but there's some times where I'm like, nah, I don't even know the dude. But with that one, I'm like, that is straight like Mother Teresa with dreads. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the bearded lady right there. Hey, Mark, when you're talking about the friends, talk to us too. When you're probably one of the most curious people I know, because you want to know about people. You found Paolo. A lot of people see the hat on Instagram, like it or share it, and they're like, I did my duty. You called him and then went to his shop and had a hat made. You worked with him. You know what I'm saying? I want to meet Paolo.
I love, my favorite books to read are autobiographies. I, I'm just finishing up Will Smith's new
Mm.
autobiography. It is amazing. It's so good. It's inspirational. It's just, he's a fascinating guy. But I see, like I said, I see people that are doing things at a high level, and I want to be associated with those people because that's
Mm.
who I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be the person that does what I do at a high level. And like I said before, unless I'm associated with people that do that, I can't get there. You've got to have people to go with, whether they're in your industry or not. You've got to have people that are like-minded to go on that road with. And so I see things like that all the time. And I've just never hesitated to call people up and say, hey, I want, sell me what you're doing, or show me what you're doing, or let's just go have lunch, or whatever it is. I think too many people are scared of, I don't know whether it's rejection or what it is, or there's, I don't know, because I've never had that. But if I see something that's interesting to me, I'm going to find out about it. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to call them. I'm going to ask, because I've the things that I've been through, the struggles that I've been through in my life are already worse than someone telling me no, or that they don't want to. Like, why do I care? I'll find somebody else. You know what? There's other hat makers. If he said no, I don't, I'm not doing it, or I don't want to, or he didn't take my call, I would have found somebody else and gotten a different hat. It's just he was there, and he was willing to, he picked up the phone and he answered me, and we talked and we had a great time. And so there's the connection of like-minded people. And that's how you make friends. You make friends not just by who you're in high school with, not just who you live in the neighborhood with. Yeah, those are a certain type of friends, but you don't get to choose those friends as easily. They just kind of happen naturally. When you get older and you're trying to build a life for yourself, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to, you know, build this infrastructure around you to help you achieve your goals, you get to choose. You get to choose who you spend your time with. So figure out what it is that you love, figure it out what it is that you want to do, find people. It's super easy to find the people. There's millions of them out there, and they're all over, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I mean, it doesn't matter. YouTube. Get a hold of them. They're just people like you and me and everybody else, and do what you did to me. Hey, we're going to be friends. you know, you have to make the effort.
Well, let's phrase it right though, Mark. I told you I'm going to
What
force
was it?
you. I'm
Oh,
going to
you're going to
force
force me to.
you to be my friend for the rest of your life. So, I mean, you could give it up now, or we could waste all kind of time in between and all that stuff, man. But I want to compliment you too on your follow through, because it's one of those things where a lot of times you'll meet someone and you'll connect, and then you'll be like, yo, let's hang, and it doesn't happen. And dude, I remember, I think one of the first times, I don't know, did we go to dinner before we did the George party, or the George party and then dinner?
We didn't go to dinner before that.
So it was the George party first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I invite Mark to like a jorts, which is a jean shorts party, and it was like, I can't remember the theme. Maybe it was Magnum PI, or I can't remember what it was, but
I think it was just dad jorts.
oh, it was dad style, and so.
Yeah.
You have to show up, and I mean, he shows up. I got some jorts on, or I had some cargo ones on, and then I have the New Balance 680s. You guys know out there. If you're wearing the New Balance 680s, right? I'm going to be the first dude sponsored by New Balance 680s. Like my wife went in. She got me them big ass, the big clod hopping dad white shoes, and we showed up, and it was cool because, I mean, that type of scenario, again, is not what you do. It's who you are. And Mark walked in, and it was just hilarious. Like, for us, that was one of our first times, but it was like, I said, hey, we're having this. And he was like, I'm there. That doesn't happen very often, man. And I want to compliment you on that. I just think it's amazing.
Thanks. It was fun. We had a great time.
Dude, it was crazy. And then the dinner in the parking lot, dude. The dinner in the parking lot was hilarious. I was like, Mark, I want to take you to this nice dinner. He he shows up and it's in a tent in the back alley of.
That was really cool, though.
It was a good dinner. It was It was amazing that way. So I started the podcast because of my kids, Mark, and I wanted to take iconic people like you in my life, and I wanted my kids to see that anything was possible in life. And you know, you've met Maddox and McKenna. Maddox is your biggest fan. He got to see your Batman car, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever." He hasn't got to ride in it yet, so he got to ride in it
Next time.
You got to do that. But I started the podcast for them. Maddox being 10, you know him. McKenna being 13, you know her. And I wanted to show them that iconic people like you weren't superheroes, that you have challenges, you go through things, but you have two things in common with every successful person I've ever met, which is you have a phenomenal attitude and you have crazy work ethic. So what advice would you give to Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use their names, Mark, it would be awesome.
Yeah. Wow. I think the first piece of advice that I would give to you, Maddox and McKenna, is that I need to plug my laptop in because it's going to die. Give me 1 second.
This is how our friendship works. I'm trying to get all deep. I'm trying to be there for my man Mark, and he just wanted to show us his chair. That's why he didn't need to plug anything in. He wanted to show, and that vase, because that vase, his vase is probably from the Vatican, and it was hand spun there. It was actually the vase in Ghost that Patrick Swayze made.
Demi Moore made that.
Yeah, exactly. And Oda Mae Brown, she was there too, and they made the vase. So okay, after showing out and showing us your great stuff, say their names again too, Mark. Say their names again.
Maddox and McKenna. This advice is for you. I think first is, because we've talked a lot about friends on this podcast and the importance of friends, I think I would be really selective about who you choose to spend your time with, about who your friends are. And don't just allow, because someone lives by you, to be the reason that you're friends with them, or because it's easy to hang out with them. If they don't have your best interest at heart, if they don't want the same kind of a life that you want for yourself, they're not going to help you. And that's not to say not to be friendly with those people, or not to be nice to them, or not to hang out with them. But I think it's more important who you surround yourself with on a regular basis. The kind of friends that you choose to hang out with. Where they go in life is probably where you're going to go in life. You know, in most cases, we don't travel too far from the lifestyle of the people that are around us, or our parents. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but as a general rule, we stay in our comfort zone. And if you want to be successful, you're not going to be comfortable. I can tell you that right now. The comfort and success have nothing to do with each other. And anybody that's successful will tell you that you've got to be uncomfortable most of the time if you want to be successful. Because you're doing things that are hard. You're not doing things that are easy. Easy things don't lead to success. Hard things do. And overcoming those hard things are what is going to make you successful and make you a good person and make you get you to where you want to be. The second one is probably hard work. You know, don't be afraid of hard work or hard things. You know, my kids, I've always had a saying that with my kids, it was kind of our family motto, and it was, Willis's do hard things. Real simple, but that was the mantra for our family when my kids were growing up. We do hard things. That's what we do. And that's why we're strong, because we do hard things. Um, there's always the temptation to take the easy way. There's always the temptation to not do as much or not work as hard or not put as much effort into it, because there's always something that you're looking forward to around the corner. And you're like, oh, if I just, I can kind of half-ass this, and then I can get the reward, and I can do what I want to do, which is, play video games or go skate with my friends or go ride bikes or whatever. But those things, the fun things that you want to do, like skating with your friends and riding your bikes, they don't mean as much if you haven't paid the price to get there. As you pay that price of admission, when you do get those opportunities to relax, to ride your bikes, to play video games, to, whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you love to do, it's so much sweeter and it's so much more enjoyable, and it means so much more when you've put in the work to deserve it. So, and then I think the last one is kind of goes back to being kind. It's just, don't get so wrapped up in what you're doing that you forget about other people. As hard as we want to work, as driven as we want to be to reach our goal, and that's important to do, it also is really easy to just focus 100% on yourself. When you're in that process, in that pursuit of whatever your goal is, it's easier if you're just 100% focused on you and the next task. And I got to do this. And you just block everything out and ignore everything else except for what you need to do to reach your goal. You'll get there faster. But if you do that, when you get there, you're going to realize that you've hurt people along the way. You've made choices that have affected other people in ways that you may not have recognized, or in ways that you didn't want. I mean, it's happened to me. I know that because it's happened to me. I've been that guy that is so driven and focused and so, 100% focused on this is what it is, that nothing else matters. And I neglected people in my life that were important to me. And it wasn't until years later that I realized the damage that I had done and the damage that I'd caused because of that attitude and that mentality. And so, what were the three things? I'm trying to remember.
So you said you were talking about be kind.
Yeah.
You were talking about be kind.
Work hard.
Work hard. And then this last one was, or the last one, as far as being kind, was about not just being so focused on you that you didn't see the other people, and not be afraid to work hard.
Oh yeah, and the first one was surround yourself with good friends. Mm-hmm. Make good friends, and that's a choice. So remember that.
Yeah.
That it's a choice who you surround yourself with.
Mark, you're a genius. I never realized when you were saying your friends don't just have to be geographical, because a lot of times we're like, oh, well, this person lives next to me, I'm supposed to be friends with them. But if you guys listen to him, what he was saying is, nah, I mean, I'm going to go seek out the type of person that I want to be able to hang around. I've been very fortunate in my life because, my best friends are from 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and they're still around, and we still hang out, and they still, but I love what you talked about as far as the non-geographical and making it a conscious choice. I never heard it that way. And, it's amazing, man.
Well, all my friends growing up were neighborhood kids, and kids that I knew in school. They were all within a, I don't know how many block radius, but that's who I hung out with. That's who I grew up with. And I think it's easy for people to get into that habit of, well, I'm friends with my neighbors because they live here and we hang out and we barbecue on the weekends. But I think you have to look at people and say, okay, I can be friends with this person. I can be friendly with this person, but if their goals aren't in line with my goals, if they're not going where I want to go, they're not serving me any purpose. It may be fun to hang out with them and not to be rude, but they're not doing anything for you. They're not helping you. And I've got a lot of friends in my life that I'm still friends with. We don't hang out much. I mean, we almost never see each other. We talk once in a while, but because we're not going the same place. I'm not going the same place with those people. I love them. They're great people. I have nothing against them, only good things to say about them. But we're on different paths. And if I spend all my time with them, I'm either going to spend all my time trying to bring them to where I am, or they're going to bring me to where they are. And we're just wasting time. So
it's incredible, man. I mean, everyone out there listening and watching, you know, I had this guy on, and I want to have you on more and more. I have to, no pun intended, I have to pull teeth to get this guy because, you know, I'm going to pull my own teeth out and have him come fix them. That's what it is. But I think the whole time he was like, man, I need to fix that brown one. We talked about the brown tooth. Man, you know, that's what he said. He's like, look at my perfect smile constructed to the whites of my eyes. Well, one of my eyes is kind of yellow. So that's the reason why my tooth is, Mark. So don't judge me.
That's why you got that yellow tooth.
Yeah, don't judge. Oh, see, now you even said it. You've never said it before in our friendship. I've said it before, and you're like, no, it's not that yellow. But you just shouted it out.
I finally decided to be honest with you.
For the whole world to see, man. That's why our relationship is so good, man. That's why it's so good. I'm just going to change the lighting. If you can see me, you see which one it is. Let's see if it's right there. You can see it.
I can't.
I feel like the bus driver on the Muppets.
Oh, come on.
I'm joking with you, man.
Just put gold on it.
That's what I'm going to do, man. And
then you're balling.
Well, that's how Mark and I have been pitching ideas to him for a long time, you know, and some of those things will come out. It'll work out well. It'll be called What You Talking About, Willis. It'll be great, man. But I want to thank you seriously for being on the podcast, man. Every person out there, if you're listening, which you are, you're watching, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you check our sponsors out. You click the links, you do all the things that you know you need to do, but also share the episode. Share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. I think everybody needs to hear Mark. Everybody needs to be, you know, have a friend like him, although he won't be friends with you because he already told you that he picks specific people. And if you if he doesn't want to be your friend, then he ain't going to invite you to any parties. So, you know, if you get the opportunity to be invited to one of his parties, though, I did, and I didn't go because we had a sickness in the family and we had to be out. But this year, July. That's right.
We're doing it again.
We're doing it. Coulter Wall, you better get ready, buddy, because you're about to come to Lehigh.
I'm working on it.
You ain't never heard of Lehigh, but you're about to be up in there. About to be up in the coolest backyard in the world. But Mark, I want to thank you, man. I want to not only thank you for being on the podcast, but just, I mean, your friendship, man. It's so great. I can't wait to snowboard with you, hang out.
Yeah, me too.
And it's going to be amazing. So you have been absolutely phenomenal, exceeded expectations, man. And you're an absolute genius. The last thing I want to say to all the people out there listening is I asked Mark, like, do you want me to put your website up? And he was like, this is who he is. He ain't trying to promote anything. You know, if you see it, it's cool. But I love that about you, man, because in a world where everyone is like, hashtag this, and you need to be at this, and you need to be checking me out and doing all this stuff, Mark is steady, working hard, and the world's going to find out about him.
Thanks, Kelly. I love you, brother.
I love you too, man. You're officially off the hot seat, brother.